Welcome everyone to another episode of Power Core Productions and Podcastings. I am your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you another video. And today we're going to be continuing What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, the movie Sins of the Past Part 2. This part is going to be a bit long, so I do hope you will enjoy the work that went into it. As always, I want to thank everyone who supports Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Again, cannot do it without you guys. You make the channel grow, you make the core grow, and your help is greatly appreciated. If you haven't already, please check out a new segment that we have on Power Core Productions and Podcastings, that being What If One Shot. That's going to be a special form of what if storytelling that I do on a weekly basis. It's going to be long, nothing elaborate. It's just going to be a video where we do a what if, and it's more of a discussion. We kind of go in depth, and it's one of those sort of videos for your overall enjoyment. It's a short little what if type of series, and I do hope you'll like it. Episode 1 is out now, that being What If Orochimaru Never Turned Evil. So I do hope you guys enjoy that. Please check it out if you haven't, and check out all that we have on Power Core Productions and Podcastings as well. As always, thank you for your support, as always again. And without further ado, not to keep this intro overly long, we're going to get straight into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Naruto would learn of everything that happened while he had been away for 17 years. He would learn of how Danzo and Orochimaru enforced their will upon the village hidden in the leaves, of the nightmare and the hell that it had become, and that in recent times a group known as the Akatsuki had gone to capturing the Jinchuriki. Rumor was that they had captured the one to the 7 tails, and that in their awakened destruction, the Sand Village no longer existed. Naruto was shocked by everything that had happened, and he couldn't help but wonder, had he had been here, could things have changed? Could he have possibly changed the world from suffering such a fate? Naruto would tell his own story about the world he was raised in. He would speak of how he had become a devil, and how he had gained the boosted gear. While Kakashi, Yamato, and Jiraiya would be shocked by this news, Naruto would assure them that the devils were not as evil, or evil at all, so to speak, and that their world were rather complicated. Being a devil was no different than being an angel, or a fallen angel for that matter. It was all a class system, so to speak, but that their main issue was finding peace, which they somehow had managed to achieve with the alliance that had been formed. He would also show his abilities of being the owner of the boosted gear, as well as being the Red Dragon Emperor, explaining how he had the powers given to him by the great dragon Dreg, and how by combining it with the power he had gained from Kurama the Nine Tails, he was able to create something far more powerful. The boosted gear was a source of unlimited strength, and with that strength, he could help turn the tide in the battle. While being informed of everything that had happened, Naruto would want to go to the Hidden Leaf Village immediately, wanting to put an end to Danzo and Orochimaru and their schemes, to redeem the village that his father sacrificed his life to save. However, Kakashi would say that he had someone on the inside, someone who could help them with doing just that. In the meantime, Obito and the Akatsuki would be making their move, as the Stone and Cloud Village were now enthralled in a war. Sasuke now having Itachi's eyes implanted into his own, to gain the internal Mangekyo Sharingan. He was now the Mizukage of the village hidden in the mist. Along with him, he had Kisame, as well as a young shinobi named Suigetsu, wielders of 2 of the 7 swords of the mist. Along with Kakazu and Hidan, they mobilized their forces to be ready for their assault, as Sasuke would be leading his own army of Mist Ninja, as well as a few of the Akatsuki, to destroy the Leaf Village once and for all, while Obito had others to deal with the stone and the cloud. In the meantime, Vali had dissected the jutsu formula for the Flying Raijin. Now informing Rias and the others, he would be able to take them to where Naruto had gone, potentially, and doing so they could bring him back home. Azazel would warn them to be careful, noting that this could never be given out to the public, that they could never know that the Chaos Brigade, as well as the Alliance, had to work together in this situation. However, Vali would assure Azazel that the hero faction were of no kin to the Chaos Brigade. Soso had acted on his own back in Kyoto, and that was something he planned to rectify when he returned. Azazel would keep him to that word, and they would hold down the front lines while some in the House of Grimry would go after Naruto. Asya, Irina, Gasper, and Rosvisa would stay back with Azazel. Asya, not being much for combat, wouldn't be able to do very much in a fight. But however, she would give Rias a hug, telling her to please bring Naruto back home, Rias assuring her that she would do so. With that, Vali, Kiba, Zenobia, Akano, and Rias would prepare as they would jump through time and space itself, Rias keeping the promise to her heart to bring Naruto back home where he belonged. During that time, Naruto, Kakashi, Yamato, and Jiraiya had arrived to the borders of the Land of Fire. Yamato, spending his time in exile on Mount Miyaboku, took to training and learning Toad Sage Mode, increasing his strength with his wood style, giving him greater sensory through the forests of the Land of Fire. They would make their way to the Fire Temple in the land, where the Shinobi Guardian 12 resided. There were one of Kakashi's allies, a man named Asuma Saratobi. He had been with the Temple Guardians during the event of the Uchiha Revolt and the subsequent death of his father. Knowing the dangers that Danzo could have imposed, he found it wise to stay with the Temple Guardians. However, he did make one request: having his childhood sweetheart be by his side, that being Kurenai. The two had lived at the temple, along with Asuma's nephew, Konohamaru. Naruto and Konohamaru meeting for the first time. Asuma would explain to everyone that this was his asylum in a way, and that this was where he, Kurenai, and Konohamaru had been living, as well as training and staying out of harm's way. During the meeting, they would be shocked to learn that Naruto was the son of the 4th Hokage Minato, as well as being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, asking where he had been and how he had managed to come back to this world. It would take some time, but Naruto would eventually explain everything to them, telling them of how he had been sent to another world the night of his birth, as his father had received a vision from a man he believed to be the Sage of Six Paths. All of this would be a revolution to many, as they had no idea that Minato had gone through such an ordeal. The Sage of Six Paths, the god of all shinobi, if it were indeed true that he had sent a vision to send Naruto away, then it must have meant that there were even greater works at play than they themselves could realize. As they would be talking and discussing the situation of the Hidden Leaf, as well as Naruto's plans to defeat Danzo and Orochimaru, Naruto would feel something from his kunai that he had carried in his coat pocket. Taking it out, he could sense that something were about to come from the kunai. As he rushed outside, he would fling it into the air, the others staying on guard as they had no idea what was to come. From out of the kunai, Volley, Akeno, Rias, Kiba, and Zenobia would all come falling out as they landed on the ground, trying to figure out where on earth they had possibly gone. Naruto being shocked to see that his friends had arrived and that Volley was with them of all people. Rias rushing up to Naruto to give him a hug, wondering where he had gone and how he had gotten here. The two groups would be on their guard for a brief moment, neither side knowing who the others were or where they had come from. However, Naruto would quickly get between them both, telling them that they were all on the same side, and that there was no need to fight. Naruto explaining that these were the people that he had been talking to them about earlier, that they were his friends and his close comrades. With all of that being smoothed over, and Jiraiya taking a special interest in the ladies, seeing that Naruto, even though they had never met, inherited his good luck with the women, having a bit of a nosebleed at the massive, lovely ladies that were around him. Naruto would focus his attention to a much more serious matter. As he turned to face Volley, he would ask how Volley of all people had managed to reverse engineer the flying Raijin. Volley explaining that the Sharingan were rather useful in such an ordeal as that. Naruto would ask Volley what he were doing here, and Volley would explain that he had come at the behest of Rias to come save him. Although it was obvious that wherever they were, Naruto seemed to be rather familiar with. As the two stood at earshot away from the others, they would have a brief conversation, both knowing that there were a lot more things at play than met the eye. Naruto would show everyone the Shinobi Temple, explain to them the world they had managed to come to, that this was his homeland, the world that he had been given birth. Rias and the others would be astounded by this, the idea that they actually got a chance to see the village hidden in the leaves, the world that Naruto had told them stories about, even though he had never been there himself. All of this was so much to take in, it was hard to believe. As everyone would go inside for tea and to have and continue their conversations, Naruto and Volley would have had one conversation to themselves. Before going inside, Naruto would tell Volley not to tell anyone from this world that he was a new Uchiha, as they had no way of knowing how he had become one in the first place. Volley would agree to this, as he didn't want to make things any more complicated than they already were. And as such, the two would join in with the other group to discuss what they were going to do. Kakashi stating that his informant should have been arriving at any moment, and almost as if on time, a man in a cloak would enter into the temple, taking it off to reveal that he had bushy brows and a bowl-cut hairstyle, and still an energetic form of youth for being an older man. He would rush up to Kakashi and give him a hug, asking how he had been for all of this time. Kakashi telling the man to calm down. Behind him was a younger man of a similar hairstyle and bushy brows, who too was energetic to see that Kakashi were doing well as meeting all of these new people. Kakashi with a sigh would introduce them as Might Guy and Rock Lee, two shinobi from the village hidden in the leaves who had been working as his informants. While they didn't agree with Danzo and everything that had been done, they would keep Kakashi informed of everything that were happening, trying their best to keep an upbeat spirit about things. However, even for the two of them, they knew how dire the situation had become. Guy would tell Kakashi that they had something to discuss, and it was urgent. During the years that had gone by after the destruction of the Uchiha clan, Danzo turned his sights to the Hyuga next. While the Hyuga were not as ambitious as the Uchiha, they were still as formidable and dangerous just the same. And under the eye of Orochimaru and Danzo, the Hyuga found themselves earning the ire of the tyrants. Many Hyuga began to disappear in a leaf, and even more so, the clan's leader, Heihachi Hyuga, was assassinated, as well as his wife and unborn second child. This left a young girl named Hinata Hyuga, now scorned and filled with nothing but the thought of revenge against those who had wronged her clan. The man who took over for the Hyuga clan next were nothing more but a puppet, who agreed and did everything Danzo asked, thus making the Hyuga nothing more but puppets to the Hidden Leaf village. However, a young man of the Hyuga clan tried to speak up against Danzo. The young man's name was Neji Hyuga, a man who too had felt the scorn of the leaf and wanted to stand for what was right. He attempted to strike out against some of Danzo's elite guard after they had wronged an individual of the Hyuga clan. And as such, Danzo had made it very clear that no form of insubordination would stand against him. And as such, in order to make an example of the young Hyuga, his execution was to take place in a few days. Everyone would be horrified by this news. Naruto angered the most, feeling as though Danzo had ruined the once great and beautiful lands. Rias could sense the anger within Naruto, telling him to calm down and to not lose himself. Vali would agree, noting that if Naruto were to lose himself to anger and to hatred, he could awaken the darkness within him, the darkness that triggered the unhinged Juggernaut drive. Naruto would calm himself and would ask how long it was until the execution. Rock Lee, with a solemn face for his comrade and partner, would explain that the execution was in 3 days, which meant that they only had that amount of time to get to the leaf and to stop Danzo and Orochimaru once and for all. Naruto would be the first to stand, stating that he was going to go, and that he was going to put an end to Danzo and Orochimaru once and for all. He had the power, and he believed that nothing they did could ever stand against him. However, Jiraiya would warn that in the years that Naruto had been gone, Danzo and Orochimaru had been working unopposed in the Hidden Leaf village. There was no telling what sort of jutsus and tricks they had learned along the way. While Naruto was indeed strong and very powerful, he had to make sure that he wasn't foolish. After all, even the strongest could be brought down if the right opening was given. Naruto would take these words into consideration, but all the same, he wanted to go, and the others felt the same way. Rock Lee would be told to send word to whoever he could to gather allies. Rock Lee intended to do so, as he headed back to the Hidden Leaf village, the others making their preparations before they would head out as well. They were going to put an end to the tyrannical reign, and they were going to bring back hope to the world. Back in the village hidden in the leaves, a small group of shinobi meet in secret. This group consists of Shikamaru Nara, Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, Ino Yamanaka, Tenten, and Choji Akamichi. This young group of shinobi, who had been friends, and their friendship had been fortified through years of trouble and strife, were coming up with their own plan to save Neji. They knew that they could not stand against the might of Orochimaru and Danzo, and that the full force of the hidden leaf would be on them. Their friendship had been brought together after the events of the Uchiha Revolt, when one of their own classmates and her family were tragically killed in the crossfire. That young girl's name was Sakura Haruno. This was a death that Ino took to heart more than anything, as she and Sakura were close friends, and that life had not gotten better under the reign of Danzo. He had made the Hidden Leaf nothing but a place of blood and despair, where his word was absolute law. Everything he said he did for the sake of the village. However, breaking up families from their homes, taking young children that he could mold into his army and indoctrinate into his own will. These children thankfully have been spared, but sadly not other members of their own clans, who were taken, put into the foundation, the army of the Hidden Leaf. The others would be discussing how they were going to save Neji. How were they possibly going to get into the Colosseum of the execution and get him out? Hinata was the most stern of all of them. Her heart had become blackened through the years of violence and chaos. Her clansmen, her brethren, being forced to do the will of Danzo. It was more than what she could take. It made her fortify her heart, and things like peace and love, while they were mere concepts and fantasies, they were things that she did not hold in high esteem. The only thing she wanted was vengeance. She knew that Danzo was responsible for the assassination of her father and her mother, which also resulted in the death of her unborn sister. She knew firsthand that it was Danzo who had pushed the Uchiha. She knew that it was because of Danzo and Orochimaru that her people had been used for their dire experiments. And now she were going to lose the closest thing she had to a brother in Neji. This was something that she could no longer tolerate. For most of her younger years, her insubordination had pushed her to the point where she were exiled from the clan, and she were fine with that. Her and Neji would train and spar, doing their best to get stronger, hoping that they too could lead a revolution. However, it was easier said than done when under the heavy hand of Danzo, none could escape his fury. Shikamaru, being their strategist, would try their best to come up with a plan, trying to find a way to save Neji at any and all costs. The best plan that he could come up with was moving for a quick rescue. If they could create enough of a distraction, then maybe they could pull him out of there in time. However, even if they did so, one of them would have to stay back as a sacrifice to allow the others to escape. Many wanted to take the role. However, it would be Hinata who would decide to do so. She would strap a vest of highly powerful paper bombs, hoping that if she could get close enough to Danzo, she would detonate and gladly give her life to destroy the tyrant. The others didn't want to believe that it would be true, but however, she felt that this were more than necessary. And with that, the plan would be put into motion. The plan would be for Ino to use her mind transfer jutsu on Danzo, to immobilize him long enough for Hinata to get close to him, while the others would create a distraction from the other side. In the midst of the chaos, they would free Neji, and once Hinata got close enough to Danzo, Ino would break the mind transfer jutsu, and Hinata would detonate, killing the tyrant once and for all. For the others, if they managed to escape, then maybe, just maybe, they could come back and defeat Orochimaru. Maybe they could find one of the other Sannin to aid them in their fight. But of course, that was wishful thinking. In the meantime, the Stone and the Cloud Village were enthralled in war. As the final stages of the war were coming to an end, Anoiki and Lord A stood on the battlefield respectively. Anoiki, immensely tired and drained, with a deep gash on his chest, and A, tired and exhausted as well, his left arm being blown off from a particle-style technique. Along with A, Killer B, his brother, the Eight Tails, was also tired, as he had to deal with an army of stone ninja, all S rank, leaving him almost drained as well, along with Yuki, the Eight Tails. As the battle entered into its final stages, before anyone could throw another attack, a man with orange hair and then black robe with red clouds would walk amongst the carnage. Are you the one who are known as Killer B, the Eight Tails Chinchuriki? Yeah, that be me, the number one Killer B. Understand, fool, you fool. What do you want with me exactly? You are to let yourself be captured. Who are they? B! Don't let your guard down! What the? And who are you? My name is Sorcery of the Red Sand. You will make an excellent addition to my collection. What? You're Sorcery? Hey, old man, you remember me? Datara, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I love to see what you've done with the place. And they say that you would be the finest Tsuchikage of them all. I don't have to take this from you. You're nothing but a traitor. Once I finish with the Raikage, I'll sink everything on you. Oh, really, old man? Hey, you gonna tell the Raikage your secret, or should I? Secret? What does he mean, Inoki? Oh, he hasn't told you? Oh, well, the Hidden Stone? They've been hiring the Akatsuki to do half of their dirty work for him for a while now. You what? I didn't know. It was just... Oh, save it, old man. You'll do anything to save your own skin at a time like this. But we didn't come here for you, unfortunately. We came here for the Eight Tails. Well, I've come here to kill you. But, you know, you guys done that for me. Lord A, I think it's best if you and we work together. Fine, we will postpone our fight. No, there will be no need for that. For this war and all of your petty squabbling, it comes to an end now. And what exactly do you mean by that? Simple. Look above you. Lord A and the Noiki will look above as a great shadow would appear above them. They would see a large Datara who seemed to be standing high into the clouds himself. As Pain and Conan would jump on Datara's flying clay monstrosity, Datara would weave his hand signs together. Lord A and Inoki, attempting to use their power to try to push back what was surely to be an explosion. However, before they could do so, they would hear these words. Almighty pull. As they were pulled closer to the large Datara, Datara would smile as the look of fear came across Inoki's face. Well, it's time for you to go to the afterlife, old man. I hope you enjoy this. This is my finest piece of work. I dedicate it in your name. I call it Inoki's glory. Because after all, you will be immobilized in my art. And like all great art, it's an explosion. The day of Neji Hyuga's execution would arrive. The air would be cold and solemn. Danzo and Orochimaru standing side by side in the Colosseum as the crowd gathered to observe the murder. Danzo had long since grown arrogant in his power. He felt as though he had everything that he could ever want. Orochimaru was more than satisfied. Now able to work undisturbed, with the literal protection of the Hokage, he could get away with absolutely anything. And he took that to full advantage. The two standing side by side, as Danzo looked out into the crowd. He would stand up to speak before the one to be executed would be brought out to the arena. 17 years ago, a great change needed to occur. My late friend, the third, while I have much respect for him, was too naive in his ambition. He did not know what to do when it came time to dole out the proper punishment. I will not fall in such waivers. I have brought peace, order, and justice to the Hidden Leaf. We are stronger than ever, but we only remain that way when the vermin are removed from our midst. The one to be executed today, Neji Hyuga, he is such vermin. To allow him to live will be the detriment of your village, your home. We cannot allow such weakness to perpetrate our system. And as such, he will pay for his treason of crime. Never again will the Hidden Leaf suffer the way it suffered all those years ago. As long as you believe in me, I promise you this. There will be no darkness. There will be no fear. Trust in me. Trust in all that I have given you. Trust in Orochimaru. Trust in our forces. And I promise you will see prosperity. Now, bring out the accused. 2 Foundation Shinobi would take a Neji Hyuga, bound by both his arms and legs, seal tags placed all over his body restricting his chakra flow, as well as seals placed on his eyes to restrict the Byakugan. As he was taken out into the middle of the arena, the crowd looking in silence, very few in support, others horrified. This was not the first time they had heard such a speech. This was not the first time they had seen such an execution. The grounds below looked as though it were an inferno of bleeding red. That told just how many people had been executed. It was known only as the Blood Colosseum, for much had been shed. As they held down Neji Hyuga, Danzo would ask if there were any more words that needed to be spoken before the accused were to face execution. He would say nothing. Before Danzo could give the thumbs up to thumbs down, an explosion would occur from one side of the arena. Everyone looking around to wonder what had happened. Danzo believing that this were yet another attack, an attempt to stage the execution. Orochimaru would send his men to go check and see what had happened. In the meantime, smoke bombs would begin to go off all throughout parts of the arena, obscuring Minnie's vision. From among the crowd, one shadow would come rushing forth. Danzo and Orochimaru seeing full hand what was at play, and not falling for it. The plan would seemingly go off perfectly. Ino would attempt to use the mind transfer jutsu, and it would appear as if Danzo had been captured, while Hinata would make her way over to Lord Danzo. Standing in front of him, her eyes blazing with the Byakugan. As she looked up to him, she would tell him that his time to die had come, and that she would be the first to escort him straight to hell. However, before she could unveil her paper bombs that she had coated to her chest, she would be stopped as Danzo would grab her by the neck, taking his other arm and breaking her left hand, as she screamed out in pain. Shikamaru would go to Ino, now realizing that she had not used the mind transfer jutsu, but instead had been placed under a genjutsu. As he broke her out, she would apologize, saying that she failed. Danzo would pick up Hinata and throw her to the Colosseum grounds below. As she fell, she could feel as if her leg had been broken. Trying her best to get up, Danzo would jump down to the arena floor. Foolish. Absolutely foolish. Did you think that we would not see that coming, Miss Hinata? You and your wretched clan. I will deal with them in due time, but you will be the first of many. This will be a double execution. No, all of your conspirators. You will all die. Hinata would get back to her feet as best she could. Orochimaru standing beside him, smiling as he would speak. Well, I do hope that you will allow me to use her carcass when this is over, Danzo. Byakugan as pure as that. I'd love to get my hands on it. Very well, Orochimaru. You can have her after I'm finished. As the two men would begin to walk forward to Hinata, Hinata getting closer to Neji, who would beg her to run. Hinata would tell Neji that she couldn't do so, and that if they were going to die, they were going to die together. As Orochimaru and Danzo would go for the killing strikes, before they could land a blow, a large glow of gold and red, as well as a glow of blue and white, would emanate from the middle of the arena, pushing Danzo and Orochimaru back. Looks like we made it just in time, huh, Volley? Yeah, you're right. So, this is Orochimaru and Danzo, huh? Not really much to look at. Insolent! Who are... No. It can't be. You died. I know you died. Huh? Don't play dumb with me. I know. You died 17 years ago. How are you still here, Minato? Oh. You think I'm Minato, huh? Well, sorry to disappoint you. But Minato Namikaze, he's still dead. But what's the matter? You think you've seen a ghost? Danzo? Who are you? Wouldn't you like to know? I'm no one special, really. I wasn't raised in this world, so I couldn't possibly begin to say myself. But if I had to, you could say I'm the sun. The sun. That's right. I am the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails and the Red Dragon Emperor. I am Naruto Uzumaki Hyodo. Uzumaki, you live. And who are you? I am the White Dragon Emperor, Vale Lucifer Uchiha. Uchiha? No, I killed you all. That may very well be, old man. But like Naruto, I am not of this world. I merely obtained the Sharingan from rather odd circumstances. But all the same, I am an Uchiha. Orochimaru would be shocked by this news, but would still be eager by the power. As he would unveil his hood, his eyes would begin to open, as he would see to be the Sharingan. As Danzo would undo the wrappings on his left and right arm, 10 Sharingan on each, as well as one on his eye. I will rectify the leaf's last sins. This is glorious. Now, I get to destroy the last remnants of those who failed the system. The Uchiha and the Nine Tails. Your deaths will mark the new era. Do your worst, old man. But I'll have you know, I will not be defeated. And even if I am, I won't go down so easily. Let's go, Kurama. Drag. Boosted gear. KCM 2. Naruto's body would start to glow a golden aura as the cloak would form. His body becoming completely enshrouded in the power of the Nine Tails. His left hand coated in the golden gauntlet of the boosted gear, with the gemstone now showing the symbol of the pawn. As Volley would enter into his own balance breaker, entering into the armor of the White Dragon Emperor, his eyes switching from its bright blue to the dark red of the Sharingan. So, you are a Sharingan user. That's right. And I will purge those who are not worthy, such as yourself. Naruto, I'm leaving the old man to you. This Orochimaru, I will deal with him. Alright, Volley. Well, Danzo, it's just you and me. Hinata would be shocked at what were happening in front of her, as she unmoved the seals from Neji's eyes. As they looked at the back of young Naruto, they couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth, a sense of safety with his presence. Naruto would turn to the two and tell them to get out of there, and that they were going to handle this fight. That they should meet up with Kakashi and the others. As they would attempt to do so, Hinata would ask his name again. However, Naruto would not have time to speak, as he and Volley would go into their fight with Danzo and Orochimaru. Danzo had now had time to practice with the Sharingan, using their eyes of insight. Despite his older body, he was able to subside it thanks to Hashirama cells. Using them to their fullest limit, he was able to move just fast enough. However, Naruto's power proved to be too blinding. Before he even had a chance to enact his first jutsu, he had already been stabbed by Naruto in one of his chakra cloaks. As Danzo would cough up blood before falling to the ground, Naruto would think that were rather anticlimactic. However, Danzo would appear behind Naruto, telling him that the fight were far from over, as he would launch a wind-style stream after him, Naruto blocking the attack as he would enter into his rook form, gaining a stronger sense of defense, tanking the attack with ease. Danzo would try to use every trick in his arsenal. However, Naruto would be able to counter it. Danzo beginning to feel a sense of fear and dread as he would call his servants to his side, among them being a young boy with a scroll. As he would write in it with his ink, the monsters would come to life as if they were coming off the pages. Naruto creating his shadow clones, who would all go to deal with the guards. While meantime, Orochimaru would be facing with Volley. Orochimaru also had time to develop his own Sharingan, developing its abilities to its absolute limit. What resulted was a true monstrosity unlike anything Volley had ever seen. As they would continue their fight, Volley was not too versed in the ways of ninjutsu. However, the Sharingan proved to be rather beneficial, striking and defeating Orochimaru in various turns. Every time Orochimaru launched an attack, Volley would use his divine dividing to shrink it into absolute nothing. Orochimaru would then decide that the best thing he could do was crush the boy with absolute force, as a dark gray chakra would start to form around him with shades of violet. A large astral beast would appear. Orochimaru mocking Volley, stating that he had developed the Susanoo. Seeing it, Volley would decide that the best thing he could do to counter it would be with his own, the Juggernaut drive. Awakening his own principle of domination, Volley would turn into his large white dragon form, as the White Dragon Emperor would engage in combat with the Susanoo, whose weapon of choice was a long spear with two snakes that coiled at the end of the blade. As the two would engage in combat, every time Orochimaru would attempt to strike down Volley, Volley would merely divide his power. Orochimaru could feel his power shrinking quicker and quicker, more so than what he was expecting. Do you understand now, Orochimaru? You will never be on my level. Your death is imminent. No, it's only just getting started. Earth-style mud swamp jutsu. Volley would start to feel his body being swallowed by the earth. With that bit of distraction, Orochimaru, using his Susanoo, would stab at the white dragon, his spear stabbing through one of its wings. Volley would yell out in pain, but however would press forward, grabbing the spear, taking his divine dividing to the absolute max, as the Susanoo would slowly begin to shrink. That's the difference between me and you, Orochimaru. Your body isn't made for that Uchiha power. All you've done is stolen it, but you don't know what it really takes, now do you? You're a disgrace. I hate people like you. And what do you know about it, brat? In the end, you, as well as that Naruto, you will all die. As Danzo would fight with Naruto, Naruto could have sworn that he had killed Danzo at least 6 times, and yet somehow he still kept coming back each time as if nothing had happened. As he would continue with the fight, Drag and Kurama would be analyzing Danzo to see what he were up to. However, Drag would be the first to be perceptive enough to notice that every time Naruto killed Danzo, and Danzo returned, one of those eyes on his arms would close. It was just a hunch, but whatever power he were using was connected to the Sharingan. It was somehow bringing him back. Now putting 2 and 2 together, Naruto realized that every time Danzo was killed, he must have used one of the Sharingan abilities to bring himself back, as if he were somehow reversing the effects. Danzo could now see that Naruto were catching wind to his abilities with the Izanagi. Even with a Sharingan in both arms, 10 on each side. With the way things were going, Naruto would run through all of his lives rather quickly. And as such, he had to use his trump card, unveiling his main eye that was in the right socket, the eye that he had stolen from Shisui Uchiha. He would decide to cast Koto Amatsukami. As he did so, he would believe that he had won. Entering into the mind of Naruto, he would think to rewire him, thinking that he would be a perfect subject in his army. However, as Danzo walked through the astral plane that was Naruto's mind, using Koto Amatsukami, he wouldn't last too long, as he would be given a greeting by 2 beings. Huh, what the? God, what are you monsters? Danzo would swallow hard, as he would gaze upon would be none other than the 9 Tails and the Red Dragon himself. I am a heavenly being, a being with the power that surpassed even God and the great Devil Kings. As long as I am bound to Naruto, your cheap tricks and spells will never work on me. And you know well who I am, old man. Danzo would try to escape, but however a combined attack from both Drag and Kurama would destroy him instantly, forcing him out of Naruto's body and back into his own, as he would awaken to Naruto, launching another attack, wrapping his Uzumaki chains around him before slamming him into the ground, as multiple chakra arms would appear with Rasengan, destroying him. Slowly but surely, he had dwindled down Danzo's Sharingan, until soon he had nothing left. In the meantime, in the village, a war was now being fought. between the shinobi who did not believe in Danzo and his tyranny, and those who had been drafted into the Foundation, raised and indoctrinated in the twisted ways of Danzo and Orochimaru. The two sides would fight, and it would seem as if the Foundation would have the upper hand, until much needed arrivals would show up on the scene. Rias Gremory leading the charge, along with Kakashi of the Sharingan, as well as Yamato using his perfect Sage mode, riding on top of one of the toads, Gamakichi, as well as using his wood style, would turn the tide of battle. Rias with her magical circles working as shields to protect those who they were fighting with. Koneko entering into her Sage mode level 2, proving to be too blinding and fast for the enemies to take down. Kiba with his sword burst were able to create magical swords, handing them out to a few of the shinobi who could use them in the tide of battle. Akano would fight from the distance with her lightning. With the help of Kakashi, they were able to use one of the storm clouds that were coming by to generate even more lightning, with it being her natural magical affinity, and as the daughter of the fallen General Barkio. Large torrents of lightning would rain down from the sky on the Foundation shinobi. And Zenobia, wielding the mightiest of the holy swords, Ex Durandal, being able to slice through any and all of the attacks that came her way. They would soon push past the front, and the Foundation would be driven back into submission, with Jiraiya overseeing everything that were happening. He would soon get word of the others who had now been able to escape from the Colosseum, Shikamaru and his team as well. Jiraiya would head over to the Colosseum to see what were happening, to make sure that Naruto were okay. Naruto and Vali had now pushed back Orochimaru and Danzo, the two beginning to squirm like the rats that they were. All of their years, all of their planning, all of it had now come to an abrupt end, as they now had no choice in the matter. They had decided that they would never allow their enemies to see them in their weakness. Orochimaru would be the first one to attempt his escape, exiting out of the body of the Uchiha that he were using. He would set his sights on Vali, hoping that if he could take over his body instead, that he could gain that power. However, that would prove to be rather misfortunate, as the moment he tried to enter into Vali, he would unravel his true power in the Sharingan, as his three Tomoe would cast a genjutsu under Orochimaru, as the snake-like being would fall to the ground. Vali would use the power of destruction, inherited as one of the descendants of the Devil King's Lucifer, amplifying it with the power that he had taken from Orochimaru, the power taken and siphoned from the Susanoo, adding to his own strength, caused a change within him. Orochimaru, the last thing he would see, would be Vali, his Sharingan eyes as they morphed into its own version of the Mangekyo. As Vali would bring down his final attack, a spear of pure light, he would destroy Orochimaru once and for all, down to the last cell, making sure that the snake could never return. In the meantime, Naruto would be facing off with Danzo. Danzo being pushed to his limits. He would have no choice but to use the last of his secrets, a technique that he had learned from his years of study, a special form of seal that he had placed on his body. It was a way to take his opponent down with him, believing that if he could not defeat the Nine Tails, that then he would drag it with him to his death. Naruto, seeing what were happening, he would use one of his shadow clones to push him away, the shadow clone being taken in by Danzo, as Danzo's self-suicide would prove to be in vain, as he and the clone would die in their own destruction, Naruto and Volley getting away from the attack, as the Blood Stadium would be left in ruin, nothing left remaining. As Volley would check to see if Naruto were okay, he would begin to cough a little, before coughing up some blood and falling to the ground. Volley unsure of what had happened. Naruto couldn't explain it, but he felt as if a small piece of him had been lost. With Rias, as they were helping with the evacuation and getting everyone to safety, as well as defeating what remained of the enemy shinobi, Rias could feel it as well. She couldn't believe that it could be true, but she would check. She would have in her possession one pawn piece. She would then rush and fly over to Naruto to see if he were alright. As she did so, she would come to Naruto's side. Naruto, wondering what had happened to him, she would hold a pawn piece in front of him, thinking that he had lost it somehow, and she would try to give it back to him. But it couldn't work. The piece was rejecting Naruto. Rias would ask Naruto what on earth had happened, how he had lost one of his pawn pieces. He would remark that from the memory he had gotten from the clone, when he had held off Danzo had used some form of seal, something on his body, causing his instant death, as well as the death of the clone. However, whatever that seal was, its jutsu was so strong that it was able to undo one of the pawns' bond with Naruto, causing Naruto to go from being an 8 pawn to now just being 7. Now Rias had 1 pawn in her possession. How something like this were possible, she had no clue. But the one thing was for sure. The pawn could never return to Naruto. So now Rias had yet another piece in her possession that she could give to someone, although to who, she had no idea. In the meantime, with the death of Orochimaru and Danzo, the group needed to act fast. Many questions had to be answered, many wondering just who was Naruto. Was he really the son of Minato? Where had he been for all of these years? All of that would have to wait, as the first and foremost was to establish order. Jiraiya would take the role of Hokage immediately, with no qualms, getting everything organized and into position, as they would work to help and rebuild everything that had been lost. The scars that had been left on the village hidden in the leaves, they ran deep, and it would be a long time before they would be healed. But Jiraiya, now seeing everything that happened, believed that they were on the road to recovery. In the meantime, Naruto, Rias, and the others would all join together in helping in the rebuild of the village, doing everything they could to aid those in need. Naruto getting his first chance to see his homeland, albeit in a bit of ruin. However, the one thing that would leave him in awe would be the Hokage monuments. As he looked upon them, Rias and the others, all looking at Naruto as he had a chance to observe the stone faces, the one that his father had been immortalized on. They now saw what this meant to Naruto to be Hokage, to see the power that it took to be such a leader. And they felt they better understood Naruto in his dreams. However, the first thing Naruto would do was destroy the face of one who was unworthy. He would take a Rasengan and throw it straight towards the fifth face, destroying the face of Danzo until it were absolutely nothing, making sure that someone like him could never be remembered in history. As he did so, he would return back to the others, thanking them profusely for helping him in this matter, for them helping him save his home. Rias would assure Naruto that they would help him in any way that he needed, and that they would make sure that this village would be up and running again. With the rebuild now taking place, they would work to undo all that Orochimaru and Danzo had done. Volley only observing from afar, but still interested to see what he could learn. In the meantime, while Obito would be working on sealing the Eight Tails, Black Zetsu would be in a frenzy. The reincarnates of Indra and Ashura, they had now come back into the world. Now his true motives could come in the full view. Obito would instruct Sasuke to take his army of mist ninja, as well as the other Akatsuki, and to head to the land of fire to see what were going on. However, before he would give that order, more jarring news, almost great news, would come to him. One of their spies would inform them that a being known as Naruto Uzumaki Hyodo had now arrived, claiming to be the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Obito's eyes would widen at this news. It was almost too good to be true. They only needed one more tailed beast, and it seemed as if the hidden leaf had gift-wrapped him on a silver platter. He would inform Sasuke of the news, and Sasuke would lead the others in the charge, while Obito would go to pay Nagato a visit. The other paths of pain would be waiting at the cave, as Obito would make his presence known. Nagato and Konan, wondering what Obito were doing there, he would explain that it were now a change of plans, and that he was going to need that Rinnegan. The battle that would ensue would be rather short, but an explosion to say the least. Not seeing the betrayal that were to come, Konan and Nagato would attempt to fight off Obito. The key word being attempt. With some difficulty, and even the cost of his own Sharingan, Obito would slaughter them both, defecting all 6 of the paths of pain before taking the Rinnegan for himself. As he would leave the hideout, letting it be destroyed by its own destruction. The dream that Nagato thought that he were fighting for were but merely an illusion. In the meantime, Sasuke, along with the other members of the Akatsuki, as well as the army of Mist Ninja, would begin their march to the borders of the land of fire. As few days would have passed, Naruto exploring the village that he had never been raised in, learning of what had happened from others that he were able to speak to, and even meeting shinobi like Shikamaru and Choji, as well as being thanked by Neji for saving his life. There was someone who was following him around for some reason. The girl that he had met at the Colosseum. Her name was Hinata. Hinata didn't know why she was following Naruto either. She couldn't really explain it, honestly. It was just something about him that was really intriguing to her. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. As they would continue their journey through the village, Naruto would feel a presence, a large presence. It felt like an army. Naruto and Volley could both sense it. Naruto rushing over to the Hokage's tower, where Jiraiya would be working with others, aiding him in trying to undo everything Danzo had done. They had sent messengers to the cloud and to the stone, but no word had come back from either of the villages. And for some reason, the mist had cut all communications with everyone. As Naruto would rush into the tower, he would tell Jiraiya of what were happening, telling him that they needed to get everyone evacuated and put into a safe place immediately, to mobilize whatever forces that he could, and to prepare for an all-out war. Jiraiya would ask what Naruto meant by all this. Naruto would only explain that something was coming. He and Volley would go and check it out on the front lines. Kakashi would offer to go with Naruto for backup, but Naruto would tell Kakashi to simply get everyone together and get ready and meet him there, and that Naruto and Volley were already too fast and would get there ahead of time. As Jiraiya would mobilize the forces, he would tell Naruto to be careful. As Naruto were preparing to leave, Rias would rush over to him, asking what had happened. Naruto would explain the situation at hand, and Rias would look a bit nervous, wanting to follow Naruto and the others. However, Naruto would explain that he needed her to help get everyone to safety, and to help get the army together before she came to the battlefield. Rias was still worried about Naruto. With everything that had happened, she was worried that things might end. He had always had those nightmares, the dreams of being in a village that was laid to ruin and destroyed. Could this possibly be that fate? Naruto had thought about this many times, but he would tell her that he didn't believe in such a fate, that his future was the one that he chose to make for himself. Before leaving, Volley would give Rias the same bit of advice that he always had. He would warn her that those involved with the red and white dragons never have the easiest of lives, and that maybe all of this was the result of such a fate. But even still, she chose to stand by Naruto, and in the end, she would need that resolve to see her through. With that, Naruto and Volley would tell everyone of the warning, telling them to get themselves ready for battle, and getting all of the remaining citizens evacuated and getting them to safety. In the meantime, the army led by Sasuke Uchiha would march through the land of fire, with the mist shinobi behind them, as well as other members of the Akatsuki, such as Kisame, Kakazu, Hidan, Deidara, and Sasori. As they made their way, two beams of light would be seen in the distance, as both Naruto and Volley would rush, the army stopping in its tracks, as Naruto and Volley would appear in front of them. "Well, well, well," Kisame would say as he pulled his Samehada from his back. "It seems they've come to meet us early. Ooh, yes. A chance to offer another sacrifice. A powerful one to Lord Jashin. Stay focused on the matter, you two. But of course, Sasuke, we're just itching with excitement. Sasuke Uchiha would walk forward, and Naruto and Vale would walk forward as well, until all three were standing just a few feet apart from one another. So, who are you? You know, where I'm from, you're supposed to give your name before you ask for the ones of others, Naruto would say. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, and I will not ask again, who are you? I'm Naruto Uzumaki Hyodo, and my name is Vale Lucifer Uchiha. Uchiha, I am but the last of the Uchiha. Do not tell such lies again, or you will die a quick and painful death. Vale would prove his lineage, as his eyes would morph into the Sharingan, a cold sweat running over Sasuke's brow. I see. I do not know who you are or where you have come from. I thought that myself would be the only Uchiha remaining. But this revelation changes nothing. I am going to lay waste to the Hidden Leaf Village. Nothing will be left standing. And as for you, the one called Naruto, word is that you are the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. I give you two choices now. Either let yourself be captured, or die. With that, Naruto would begin to be enveloped in the aura of his golden chakra. And Vale would start to channel the powers of the white dragon. Sasuke would create some distance, as he would begin to create his own Susanoo, as the large purple warrior, clad in armor, would be among them. The final battle was now going to take place, as Obito would wait in the shadows, wanting to see all that would unfold. The last of the Uchiha, the white dragon and the red dragon, were about to engage in combat. This concludes What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, the movie Sins of the Past, Part 2. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay updated on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for Part 3 and the finale of this 3-part movie series of What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, Sins of the Past, Part 3, that will be coming out this Friday afternoon. But as always, that's going to do it for the end of this video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.